Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the second class of SA. Now, before moving forward, I am going to start with a brief recap what we have done in the first class so that you are connected with the second class today. Now, so please look at the board. I am going to give you a brief recap what we have discussed so far. We were discussing about what should be the perspective of a civil servant, and that perspective should be shaping the way of looking at the society, the way of looking at the national development, should be developing what philosopher oriented outlook or maybe visionary outlook. Now, so what we discussed on that today, let's see on the board now. So let's start. Now, what was our major focus of discussion? The major focus of discussion was the perspective first. Now, who is a civil servant? We came to know civil servant should be acting like a catalyst, should be acting like a manager, should be acting like a bridge between the elected and the elector. Now, so on this note, let's start first of all. As a manager, as a catalyst, and as a bridge, so there should be certain conditions which UPSC demand in terms of job fitness, that you should be able to display the philosopher king like approach, that is visionary approach, and that visionary approach should be as per the requirement of what India's requirement for its development, national development. Now, so let's come to the board. So our discussion was, when you talk about a civil servant, as a manager, as a catalyst, as a bridge. So manager for society, catalyst for reforms, and bridge between elected and elector. Now, hence carrying forward the idea of India. Which should be based on Constitution of India. Now, because the purpose is to make India a very अच्छा थोड़ा ब्लर हो गया था, ठीक है. Okay, so the purpose is to make India a very mature democracy. Now, in this, the role of a civil servant should be that of a guide, okay, friend, philosopher and guide for the country at large. Now, in this perspective, in this approach, the first major thing is to develop a right perspective. So, right perspective of a civil servant should be based on certain liberal values and documents. So we identified 4 liberal documents which are required to be forming the perspective of a civil servant. First, we talked about our constitution. Then we talked about Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Then we talked about guidelines by the UN system and its agencies. And further, we are talking about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So these should be forming the liberal perspective of the civil servant who is supposed to serve the society. Now, the next thing after setting the perspective right is basically to assess where we stand as a society. So next thing that is required is assessment of society. Required is assessment of society. Now, when we talk about assessment of society, means the progress made so far and what should be done next to deal with the current problems, and hence coming up with solutions. So, civil servants, perspective, assessment and solutions. Now, when you talk about the entire syllabus of UPSC is based on this. Further, we came to know that the civil servant has to work on what? Preparing the society. We have seen as a topic preparedness of Indian society for global leadership role. We have to prepare the society on the basis of democratic values, in which the civil servants has to play their role and part. Now, let us know, we have developed the first formula, we have developed the first method, and the first method that we developed was the first method of preparation of society, First method of preparation of society. We have to strengthen what? So we have to strengthen democratic values for preparing our society and preparing our nation. Democratic values, which is going to strengthen all the four justices: political, economic, social and environmental justice. Now, but this strengthening of democratic values requires the support from good governance. And this good governance should be focusing on two important parts. One is human resource development and second is human resource management. Now, in human resource development, the first focus area is quality education. Second is quality health. Now, HRM, how to manage the people? Livelihoods in a manner which is supposed to promote economic justice. Next is empowerment, which is called social justice, which is called respect to all. And further, the next important thing is safety. Safety in terms of what? Environment conservation and security. Now, when we see this entire range of things, this almost becomes the first form of syllabus for UPSC essay paper. And we are finding what huge connection with almost all the GS components. The first method of preparing society is this. Now, you know the range now you have to develop the content for that, and that content development will be the course of our classes. So, first method for preparation of society is very clear. Now, let's talk about the second method. Now, see the same thing in a very different manner. Second method now. Now we are going to open up the second method of preparation of society. Now, there are two ways. Now, how to prepare the society? First of all, we have to strengthen the basic values of the people, or the ethics in the people. And second way is also to promote justice. Now, when the justice is better in the society, lesser inequalities are there. When the values are there, that means society is highly prepared. When just such type of society is there, where the values or ethics part is high, justice part is also high, definitely is a sign of a prepared society. And such society always make the nation as a leader in the global arena. So, let's see the second method. So, second method is starting with what? Strengthening of basic values. Now, this is a combination of right behavior development and behavior modification. So, right behavior development and behavior modification. Now, so behavior development, behavior modification. Now, we are going to focus on two aspects. Now, there is a one way of what? Behavior development. Behavior development means when the child is as young as 3 till your age. That means the person completing the graduation or the post graduation. So all the growing up years. So these are the right areas to develop the right behaviors. Once the behaviors are being properly developed during the growing up years, the school stage, the college stage, they become permanent in the mind and finally visible in the form of wisdom in terms of what their actions, their visibility in the society. So first way is behavior development. Okay, so the second method of preparing society is starting with what? Nurturing basic values. So values can be developed and values can be modified. Now if there are wrong things displayed by the people, wrong actions, wrong behaviors, those require modification. So we have to work on two basic aspects to strengthen the values part or ethics part. The first is behavior development. Now, so hence for behavior development, that is a part of schools and colleges, and the action one that is required is peace and values based education in schools and colleges for right behavior development. Peace and values. We have seen the type of education that we normally see in school and colleges just based on instructions, examination, rote learning, writing in the examination, forgetting and then moving ahead. Okay, that means with each and every level that we cross, each and every class that we cross, we have forgotten what we learned in the previous years because the instructions are mostly textual in nature. Instruction was mostly linked with examination only. But when we see the broad horizon of education, education is not just text. Education is also values building, wisdom building, intellect building. So if that has been the range of education, that means it is going to give sound behavior development right from the childhood, means common behaviors that we see in maybe country like Japan, okay, where the students are being nurtured right from the childhood to develop good sound quality behaviors. So values part. So action one is peace and values education becomes important in schools and colleges. How to incorporate, how to bring that, how to apply that will be the discussion points in the subsequent classes. Even the essay is demanding this. There was an essay asked by UPSC 2023. Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. Mostly we learn text, mostly we give examination, we mostly forget what we learned in schools, but we have to carry something forward. What can be carried forward is values and wisdom. So because that is the most important part of your life where the right behavior development can be planted. And there is a saying, there is a very clear saying that a child is like a wet cement. Whatever falls on it makes an impression. So right impressions are supposed to be made in schools and colleges for right behavior development. So we have to talk about reforms in the delivery of education system. Now, so hence my question is further, should education be ending within the boundaries of the education institutions? That means once the person is quitting the school or the college, should the education be ending there itself, or education should be a system of lifelong learning, or should be a process of lifelong learning? Actually, there should be a method of what? Learning throughout the life. School education system, college has to be improved so that peace and values education can be imparted for right behavior development, and post completion of those instructions should be carried forward in the society also with corrections of behaviors. That is a way of what? Self-correcting oneself and hence evolving oneself and hence educating oneself in the process, and this process should be continuing throughout the life. So education should be a way of what? Lifelong learning process. So here we are talking about now education beyond schools and colleges. But see, education beyond schools and colleges, the method of delivery can be very different. Because see, lectures and the classes are only for the students, because students are supposed to learn through classes, through instructions, and you are supposed to listen to the instructions and you are willing to also to listen to instructions and listen to the teachers and the classes. But normally the people are not. Can you teach a person who is in the society, who is there on the street, if they are doing wrong? You cannot teach through classroom lectures. You cannot bring them into classrooms. So there should be other ways. All the other ways of lifelong learning will be generating through the course of our classes. But here there is a quote. Instruction ends in a school term. Yes, formal instructions end in school term, but education ends only with life. But education ends only with life. So that means there should be a method, there can be a method where the education can be delivered can be given as a lifelong journey, as a lifelong learning process. So, what is that process? We have to develop. Now, instructions will not work with the people, because if you tell people, they will forget. I will forget. Tell me, I will forget. If you just tell me, I will forget. If you show me something, I may not remember for longer duration of time. So, what is the best method of teaching the people? The best method of teaching the people is involve me, involve in certain activities. Then I will understand. That means participatory, involving the people. So, what can be those participatory methods? We will be developing for developing right values or correcting the wrong behaviors by creating a system of involvement and course correction and self-correction. Hence, there should be a system of lifelong learning beyond the boundary walls of educational institutions. Beyond the boundary walls of educational institutions. Now, so what we are doing is, we are talking about how to prepare the society. First method we all know, focusing on HRD and HRM. Second method is talking about developing the right values, okay, and also promoting justice. In this, the first segment is developing the right values, development plus behavior modification, or modifying the values if they are not correct. So, the first way is, okay, acting on the school children, behavior development, and then creating a system of education as a lifelong learning process where the people can be involved and where they can be motivated to understand and change their way of doing things. So, hence there should be a system of lifelong learning beyond the boundary of walls of education institutions. So, what are these methods? So, what are these methods where the people can be involved? So, action number 2 is, there can be certain system of fines and punishments. For example, when we talk about Indians, Indians are very careless with respect to following traffic rules and regulations. Indians are very careless with respect to what throwing waste here and there. But the same Indians, when they go abroad, they follow all the traffic rules and regulations, and they abide with the waste management and cleanliness management, what guidelines there. Nobody breaks the rules and regulations there. For example, red light jumping is very common in our country, okay, red light jumping, but the same Indian who is going to Dubai, going to London, going to Tokyo or Paris will not be jumping the red light there. So, what they do is, the basic deviations which the people normally do, the tendencies of going wrong are curbed at the minimum level, or curbed at the basic level. So, because we know nobody is a born deviant, nobody is a born criminal. Now, criminals arise when they go unpunished at a basic level of deviation. Then they develop the audacity to move to the high level of deviations. So, all those countries, how they curb the crime or maybe deviations in this country, who are so called more disciplined countries, they curb the basic deviations in the bud, and they do it certainly, they do it for all, so that nobody has got the chance to deviate, and hence they will, and hence the people are discouraged not to go to the higher level of deviations. For example, just see two areas. If you properly apply traffic rules and regulations without any discrimination, then definitely various behaviors can be reformed. If you properly apply the waste management with respect to the people being made participative in what cleanliness and waste management and showing the responsibilities, various behaviors can be dissolved. So, similarly, there are other activities. So, there are basic deviations which the people do on daily basis in their daily life. If corrected properly, with certainty, with influence, with messaging, with participation, with punishment and fines, then definitely various basic behaviors can be corrected and better values can be generated. So, second method is a way of, so this is coming under involve me and I will understand. So, certainty of fines and punishments, especially for daily deviations which the people do, like violating traffic rules and regulations. For example, issue of waste. I will be opening up other areas where the people can be corrected. Here I am just giving you a hint for your understanding. If the behaviors are corrected at this level, many behaviors, many good values can be generated. So, this is a second action which is required to be taken. But in India, we are very casual and then we expect good behaviors for the people, that is not a possibility. Third action is certainty of praise methods. So praise methods means we have to highlight the best practices. Now we know in our society, in our country at large, in each and every sector, in each and every segment, you will be finding the best performers. There are certain good quality people who are doing their work very silently. So there should be a method of identifying those good workers so as to convert them as positive influencers, and then can be utilized in creating constructive competition for the people similar to them. Or we can create various rating and ranking system. We can create multiple rating and ranking system which can be decentralized till the neighborhood level, at the market versus market level, institution versus institution level. For example, if you talk about Swachh Bharat ranking, so Swachh Bharat ranking is for what? Between cities, competition between cities, but within the cities also there can be competition which can be created between neighborhood versus neighborhood, okay, institutions versus institutions, education versus education, education institution versus education institutions, offices versus offices, markets versus markets. Now if we create a constructive competition in such a manner which is going to force maximum people to participate, we are reforming the behaviors of maximum people, building what? Positive values, building positive values. So certainty of praise methods is we have to identify best practices or the best performers and use them as role models, and use them as role models. And the ways we need to create competitive rankings which can be decentralized at the level of neighborhoods, markets and various institutions level, so as to bring competition for maximum people, force them to participate, improve the rankings of the localities, of the institutions, and finally developing positive norms in a society. So which are those rankings? I will be giving you a list of at least 14 to 15 rankings which can be generated at the grassroots level, so that the people are forced to participate, forced to improve, forced to think, forced to recorrect their behaviors and develop positive norms, not only individually, collectively. So we are talking about behavior development, because even there was an essay, thinking is like a game, it does not begin unless there is an opposite team. This is clearly hinting. So thinking, we can only force the people to think when there is a competition from the other side. So we are talking about rating and ranking system which is going to create competition, at the local level, which is forcing the people of different localities, different institutions, different neighborhoods, different markets, shops, whatever, they are forced to think and improve. Now even we can convert some of the fundamental duties, we can also convert some of the fundamental duties into rating and ranking system based competition. We can also convert, for example, one of the fundamental duties is to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to the higher level of endeavor and achievements. To strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activities. Now in this, so put of waste management practices, where the nation rises to higher level of endeavor and achievement means cleanliness throughout. Now to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, regional. So we have to highlight some of the communities which are living in peace, cooperation, coordination, highlight them as the role models for this. So I will giving you n number of ideas how to reform the minds of the people by creating an competition to them where they are forced to think and improve. Now action 4 is, so we are talking about how to develop right values. There are two ways: behavior development, behavior modification. Development can happen in schools, modification can happen outside the schools. Outside the school modification, we have to create a system of lifelong learning. And the modification starts from what? First, certainty of punishments for punishing daily deviations. Starts from what? Certainty of praise methods by highlighting best practices or creating a competition so that people are forced to improve. Third form of behavior modification can happen, and even development can happen through sporting culture. Sporting culture in the schools and colleges can definitely develop right behavior, and sporting culture largely visible in the society through a system of calendar-based sports, calendar-based annual sports, regular competition, regular tournaments across various levels of sports can bring larger impact, not only on the people who are playing the sport, but also the people who are also not playing the sport. There is a huge impact. We will be discussing that in the proper essay topic. So sporting culture can make a huge impact because sporting culture can nurture self-discipline, can nurture leadership, can generate responsibility, can generate teamwork, can generate democratic spirit, and then multiple things which we can be developing and identifying once we reach this topic in our course of classes. So now fourth is, a country having a deeper, well-rooted sporting culture transform the society in terms of remaining cooperative, collaborative, cohesive. Transform the society in terms of what? Various behavior development and modification individually and collectively, and also definitely helpful in what? Physical fitness and health of the society. We talk about the impact of the sporting culture. Now action 5. Now what is the action 5? Now action 5, we require sustained guidance through a system of IEC, information, education, communication. IEC. Now IEC means everybody requires information, everybody requires certain degree of education and communication. So if you inform the people, if you educate the people gradually, if you communicate with the people directly, definitely that is this should be forming the basis for course correction, self-examination and self-improvement. So last action which is required in a very comprehensive manner is how to create an ecosystem of sustained information, education and communication. Information, education and communication, and it should be based on 3M process. One is there should be constant messaging. There should be messengers, means stakeholders, and should be done in a mission mode. So we have identified 5 ways of values building and strengthening in any society to prepare the society. First is behavior development right from the school and college years. Second is beyond education institutions, certainty of fines and punishment and praise methods, and also sporting culture deeply rooted in society, and lastly creating a holistic ecosystem, holistic environment of IEC, information, education, communication, and in this I will be giving you 16 to 17 methods. Now values building, we all aspire to develop values. Even if the values are building well, we have to sustain those values and strengthen the values and expand those values. But values can only be sustained when the inequalities are low and the justice is high. Higher the inequalities, lower the justice, values can decline very easily. Because due to economic stress or social discrimination, people can resort to violence, values can decline very easily. So to sustain the values building, to consolidate the values building, to expand the values building, second segment has to be worked simultaneously, that is distribution of justice. That is political justice, economic justice, social justice and environmental justice. So in short, segment 1 that is values, segment 2 that is justice, assisted by a better system of governance, leads to the creation of a prepared society. Leads to the creation of a prepared society. So let's draw a flow chart. So we have done the second method of preparing the society. Second method of preparing the society. It has got two segments. Segment 1 that is based on values, building values in the individuals and the communities and the people at large in the society. Values can be developed on the basis of first values based education system in the school. Second, certainty of fines and punishment. Third, certainty of praise methods. Fourth, sporting culture. And fifth is the IEC ecosystem. Is the IEC ecosystem. Is the IEC ecosystem. Now, second is this should be combined. This should be combined with segment 2, that is distributive justice. This is distributive justice. So here which justice? Political justice, economic justice, social justice and environmental justice. Political justice, social justice, economic justice, environmental justice. Now, both of these to be implemented require the support of good governance. Good governance. When all this is working in a proper manner, this gives rise to prepared society. This gives rise to prepared society. Now, so what we will do, we will be generating content of all of these, the values part. We are generating the content, proper content, all of these, and this content will be helping you in your ethics classes, practical content. This will also be helping in writing philosophical essays. And political, economic, social, environmental will definitely be using your knowledge of general studies. And these are the methods again preparing a society. This becomes the second method. Again, this becomes a broad outline of the essay syllabus or the essay paper syllabus. Now, we have seen two methods of preparing society, segment 1, segment 2. Segment 1 is strengthening democratic roots by using the power of good governance and focusing on human resource development and human resource management. Now, second is using the power of good governance to uplift the values and also sustaining distributive justice. Now, in both the formulas for preparing a society, one thing is common. Nothing can be implemented. Nothing can be implemented, and nothing will be implemented without the system of good governance in place. So, the third formula or the third method, you should be knowing how to bring better governance, how to initiate good governance. Now, once all these three formulas are very clear, you can write any topic in the examination, the essay topic and also main answer writing topics also. The third formula is the formula for initiating or bringing good governance. Third formula. Now, third formula for ethics in governance. Now, ethics in governance. Before talking about how to infuse or bring ethics in governance, we should be knowing first, yes, who are the stakeholders in promoting governance. So, first of all, let's identify all the stakeholders and their responsibilities, and then how to improve their functioning, So, let us identify all the stakeholders which are the part of the governance system. So, third formula for ethics in governance, first stakeholder. So, first stakeholder is the government, elected government. So, elected government, what we expect is should act like a guardian. So, what is the government? We are a representative democracy. So, that means once we elect our representative, when they are supposed to sit in the assembly and the parliament, they are supposed to behave like guardians of the entire constituencies. They are supposed to work as a guardian for the upliftment of the people. So, government or the people in the government, elected government, they are the first stakeholder and they have their major responsibilities. What do you expect from them? They should be framing timely policies and schemes, gives direction for implementation, monitor and evaluate the implementation process, and just and effective preventive and punitive actions should be there to prevent misutilization of money, to prevent diversions of the scheme, to prevent non-implementation. So, what is the role of the people in the government? Government is the first stakeholder. What is their responsibilities? As per the requirement or development of the people, they should be coming up with broad level policy schemes, monitor their implementation, check what are the problems emerging in and try to improve them, and also bringing a system of punishment against the people, against the officials, against the authorities which are misutilizing the directions or not implementing the directions. The first is government itself. Now, to support the government, there comes the role of bureaucracy, police and armed forces. Now, when we talk about directions by the government are supposed to be implemented by these people. So, their role is effective and timely suggestions to the elected government and public servants. They should be advisors to the elected. First of all, their role is to properly advise the elected people, what is right, what is wrong, should be the right method for doing various things, rather than blindly following the orders. And second is execution of directions by government. Yes, execution of directions by the government if those directions are abiding with the Constitution of India's guidelines. It's not any direction. Many people think that okay, the officers have to directly abide with the government directions. No, they can raise their voice, they can raise their counter opinion. They can raise their voice, they can raise their counter opinion or they can put their viewpoint to file notings. If the directions are not going or abiding with the constitutional guidelines, they can bring that to the notice of the ministers and of the government. But what are these two? Elected government, then you talk about police, the bureaucracy, armed forces, they are part of the state. But we have to bring a check on these state actors whether they are performing right or not, or performing rightly or not. We have to bring a check on them. So, there is a requirement of what now? Non-state actors. So, governance is based on two wheels. One is the state actors, second the non-state actors. State actors requires checks and balances from the non-state actors. The stakeholder 3, non-state actors. Their role is checks and balances on state actors and also participation in improving governance. So, we require active people institutions. We require active people as pressure groups, as pressure or critical citizens on the governance institutions, the officials, the elected people, so that they are forced to perform. So, registered pressure groups, that means the role of political parties become important, especially opposition political parties, media, companies, unions, cooperatives, NGOs, societies, trusts, RWAs, resident welfare associations. All these are the registered pressure groups of the people. They are non-state actors and they are supposed to keep a check on the state actors and their functioning. Then there are unregistered pressure groups. which do not require any formal registration, like SHGs, self-help groups, which are a part of various schemes. But SHGs, if created, they are very powerful pressure groups, and they can be very powerful in terms of keeping checks and balances and also monitoring the implementation of various schemes and programs. Similarly, we talk about Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha is a permanent body within the panchayats. So again, Gram Sabha is supposed to keep a check and can be a very powerful pressure group on the elected panchayats and their officials. Now, various forums can be created, discussion, social media groups can be created. All these are the informal pressure groups which can be created by the people, and the purpose is to what? Participate in the governance by highlighting the problems, bringing that to notice of the people in the government, okay, and forcing them to correct the actions or correct the ways, correct the methods. Now, the fourth stakeholder, rule of law. Now, we expect that the state actors, non-state actors should be doing their duties and should be performing their roles. But there is a requirement of an external check on both of them now, and that should be coming from rule of law. And the final guardian of rule of law is judiciary. But judiciary itself should be bounded by rule of law. Now, rule of law, for example, executive should be performing on daily basis according to rule of law. Violation will be settled where in the court itself. Legislature should be performing according to rule of law. Bureaucracy should be performing according to rule of law. Police should be according to rule of law. People and the institutions should be according to rule of law. Violations, the final guardian of rule of law becomes the judiciary. So, rule of law, the stakeholder four. So, all the above stakeholders, state and non-state, they should work under the watchful eyes of rule of law. They should work under watchful eyes of rule of law. Final application of rule of law is under the guardianship of judiciary. But judiciary itself is bounded by it. But judiciary itself is bounded by it. But judiciary itself is bounded by it. Note, when all the above stakeholders reflect accountability, transparency and non-discriminatory approach, then it gives rise to ethics in governance. So, that means when the elected government, political systems or the people who are running the government, the people who are a part of bureaucracy, the people who are police, okay, then we talk about the people, non-state actors, okay, and judiciary, all of them reflect accountability, transparency and non-discriminatory approach, that it gives rise to ethics in governance. So, that means to expect such level of accountability, such level of non-discriminatory approach, such level of transparency, that means all of these state and non-state actors require reforms in their way of functioning. So, let us see again the flow chart for this. Flow chart, okay, the stakeholders, the flow charts. So, when you talk about governance, there are various stakeholders. Stakeholder 1 is elected government. Elected government should be acting like a guardian. Acting like a guardian. Hence, role is policies, implementation, timely actions. Now, segment 2 or stakeholder 2, bureaucracy, police plus armed forces. Bureaucracy, police plus armed forces. So, their role is, okay, execution of directions. and also policy advice. Now stakeholder 3, S3 are the non-state actors. Their role is participation in governance. Their role is participation in governance. And also their role is checks and balances. Now, all of these now require, okay, checks from rule of law, in which the final guardian is judiciary. Now, this is going to open up your reforms in governance. This is going to open up what? How to bring ethics in governance. This is going to open up. Now, so that means elected government means we have to do something here in terms of bringing ethics here. We have to improve something here to bring ethics in bureaucracy, better ethics in policing system. Armed forces, wherever they are lacking, that should be improved. Okay, now non-state actors, all the ethical ways of functioning in various institutions of people should be improved, how they can be improved, and how to improve the ethical part of the judiciary also. All these will be requiring reforms. So, let us now catalog the proper sequence of reforms to bring ethics in governance, because now reforms are required across. And once you understand this entire range of reforms, the governance part, applied governance part will be very easy for you to understand. Now, so reforms needed to achieve ethics in governance. Reforms needed to achieve ethics in governance. Now, reforms for the state actors first. Now, when we talk about the governments, so whichever political party wins the election from the government, but that means the reforms start from the political party system. For example, we all expect there should be judicial reforms, we all expect that there should be police reforms, we expect that there should be bureaucratic reforms, but all these reforms will not be happening till the time the political parties are getting reformed. Because ultimately, who passes the law of reforms? Parliament passes all the laws. When the laws are being passed by the parliament, if the parliament itself comprising of what? More than 50% people or MPs having criminal records. So, why such type of MPs will be willing to bring reformative acts? They will not be. So, the ethics in governance will be starting by reforming the political party system itself. When the political party systems are reformed, that means they will be the beginning source or the source of further reforms in all the institutions. So, beginning of reform starts from what? The reforming the political party system, and electoral reforms. Now, if the political parties are reformed, if the election processes are very, very transparent, that there are more chances of quality people entering the assemblies and parliaments. When the quality people enter the assembly and parliament, then definitely there are more chances of reforms everywhere in all the institutions of the country, political, economic and governance institutions. So, here the reforms start from here. They are required for internal reforms within political parties, making them more democratic in nature, making them more transparent in nature, even their transparency in their funding and expenditure, everything should be brought into focus. Next is reduction of criminalization of politics and transparent electoral processes. When the parties are democratic, when the parties are transparent, when the election processes are transparent, definitely quality people will be entering the assembly and parliament, and this is going to be a source for all the reforms, required reforms in the country. This reform at the political party level will now filter down to the level of reforms in civil services. because we want an accountable and result oriented service. Now, this will further filter into police reforms. Why police reforms? Now, we know police reforms. Our police system is still governed by 1861 Police Act, one of the most repressive acts. Now, when the Britishers survived the revolt of 1857, they required a law so as to create fear in the eyes of the people. Hence came into picture 1861 Police Act. But now the question is, why in the 21st century, even quarter of the 21st century, 25 years have already gone, why we are still continuing with what 1861 Police Act? Because the politicians do not want reform in the policing system, because they just want police to abide by their orders blindly and just suppress the people. So, hence when you talk about reforming the police, again start from reforming the political party system and the electoral reform system, because we want a proactive, preventive and people friendly policing. Now, judicial reforms. For cost effective and speedy justice, judicial reforms are required to ultimately bring the right manpower in the judicial system. Okay, they are more transparent in the functioning of the judiciary from the top level to the lower judiciary level, adequate manpower, reducing the burden of cases, okay, properly listing of the cases, and about creating alternative dispute resolution systems. Okay, multiple things are required to make the judiciary more cost effective and speedy, and hence restoring the faith and balance and faith in judiciary, because what we see is what the people think, that judiciary is more pro rich and pro powerful, and this impression has to be removed, and this impression will be removed when there are huge internal reforms in the judicial functioning system. We will be identifying the methods. Further, prison reforms. Now, when we talk about prison reforms, now prisons are not the places for punishments, prisons are the places for reforms. What we expect is the person who is being sentenced to jail or is being under trial serving the jail term should be getting what every possible support system to reform or mend their ways, so that they can be released back into society as normal, proactive and positive citizens. But for that, the prison system should be reformed first, because our prison system is still governed by 1894 Prisons Act. So, reforms in prison system should not be just center of punishment, but also center of reforms, and also fairly dealing with the issue of under trials. More than 75 to 80% people in jails are under trials, and they are mostly coming from what economically weaker sections, economically and socially weaker sections, who are not having the money to defend themselves, who are not getting timely hearings, and they are languishing in jail mostly for petty crimes. So, this is again creating injustice. Now, reforms for the non-state actors. Now, mostly, so we have seen reforms for the state actors, starting from the political party system, coming to the civil services, coming to the police reforms, then talking about judiciary, then talking about the prison. Now, let us talk about the reforms for the non-state actors. Now, reforms in media is very crucial. For restoring it as a fourth pillar of democracy. In India, it has crumbled substantially or completely, not substantially, completely. When I talk about the press freedom index, we are almost 160. Okay, out of 180 countries, 160. So, we are lying very low in terms of press freedom. Corporate reforms. So, corporate reforms for display of corporate social responsibility, more responsibility is required. CSR. CSR is a very broad concept. We will be discussing more in the governance class. CSR, how the corporate should be made more socially responsible. That is a part of their reforms. and ensuring from them triple bottom line approach. What is triple bottom line approach? Triple bottom line approach is to reflect the social responsibility of the corporate when the corporate is focusing on 3P or 3P approach. Means concern about the planet, that means their production methods, their businesses should be environmentally sustainable. Concern about the people, that means they should be taking care of the people, especially the surroundings, by not creating waste, by not creating pollution or doing waste management properly, not creating problem for the people. And then while generating profit, utilizing the profit for social activities or upliftment activities as given in what section 135 of Companies Act 2013. So what we are talking about is corporate social responsibility. We are talking about corporate social responsibility means enhancing the social responsibility of the corporate by bringing what various internal reforms and external checks and balances on these corporates so that they reflect triple bottom line approach, an approach which is based on what? Concern for the planet, concern for the people, and utilizing the profit as per the directions of section 135 of the Companies Act for more welfare of the people and communities. People and communities. Next is civil society organizations reform. So, reforming the civil society organizations like NGOs, like cooperatives, also reforming them. Why? We require their formation, they should be formed more. Because see, why NGOs are important? Because they fill the last mile connectivity gap. Now we know even if the best of intentions, if the government or government administration is implementing schemes and programs, because India is very huge, large, and there are various remote areas, okay, which can be underserved or unserved. There the NGOs can be made the partners in serving the people. So we require the formation, mentoring and capacity building as active partners, civil society organizations, cooperatives, NGOs, people driven organizations. And lastly, citizen reforms. Lastly, citizen reforms. It's reforming the citizens, means reaching to the people. That means there should be a way of what? Reforming the people, means people at large through right behavior development and right behavior modification. Now, so my question is, okay. So we have talked about three major methods. Okay, first method of preparing society, second method of preparing society, and third method is how to improve governance part. So for your understanding, for a correlation, let's see the correlation again between all these three methods and formulas. Okay. So method 1 of preparing the society is very clear. We are searching for a very sound democracy. We require the support from good governance, this should be focusing on two major areas: human resource development and human resource management. Development happens through two basic focus areas: quality education and quality health. HRM management happens through livelihoods to all. This is can be equated as economic justice Next is respect to all, which is being termed as social justice, and safety to all, which is basically taking care of environment and strengthening the security infrastructure. Security infrastructure, HRD. So, quality education, quality health, livelihoods to all, respect to all, and safety to all. Now, this becomes the first method. So, the common thing here is all these will be requiring good governance or ethics in governance. Now, second method, method 2. Method 2 of preparing society has again divided into two segments. Segment 1, values. Segment 2, justice, distributive justice. Values can be through values based education, fines and punishment, praise methods, sporting culture, and then IEC methods, information, education, communication. Justice, political, economic, social, environmental. Now, both of these to be implemented by a system of good governance. And this is equal to prepared society. And again, the common thing is good governance. Without good governance, nothing can be implemented. Hence, the third formula is talking about good governance. But first of all, governance, stakeholders 1, elected government. Stakeholder 2, bureaucracy, police, armed forces. Stakeholder 3, pressure groups, that is non-state actors. Pressure groups can be formal, can be informal, and even individuals themselves can be own pressure groups. All these three to be under the check of rule of law, and hence comes into judiciary. Now, what we are finding here is, let's see, in all the three. So, this first becomes a broad framework or the outline for the SS syllabus. You have to see from these dimensions perspective, or you can see from this perspective, values part and then justice part supported by the governance part. If something on governance to be talked, you have to talk about how to bring reforms here, how to bring reforms in bureaucracy, police, armed forces, pressure groups, individuals, and judiciary. So, all this will be serving the range. If I give you the content, all this will provide you the enough content for you to write not only essays but also to write good quality GS or general studies answers. General studies answers. Okay, I hope till now it's clear. So the major reform should be tilted towards citizen reforms, reforming the citizens, reforming you and me, reforming everyone who is an individual. Now, why reforming the individuals becomes important? Why building of ethics in people is the key, or why building of ethics in the people is the key? Because whatever the institutions that a country has, all those are run by people themselves. If the people are ethical from inside, they will bring in ethics in their workplace or their roles and responsibilities. Because one of you or one of us will be a politician, one of us will be a civil servant, one of us will be in the police, one of us will be in the army. Now, one of us will be in judiciary, one of us will be running company or corporates, we will be in NGOs, media. Means there will not be any institution. There will not be any institution which is going to be run by machines. Okay, all those will be run by the people. And if the people are ethical in their own way, they will be bringing their inbuilt ethics at their workplace. Hence, these institutions will themselves become ethical in nature. So, the most important ethical build-up part is how to train and educate and impart ethics to the people. So, now our focus area, now let us build the content part. Our focus area is to, first of all, we are going to start with building of ethics in the people, and then that building of ethics is a very long exercise, and in that you will be generating huge content, and that content will be very handy in terms of answering any essay topic. So, let us see now. So, now ethics. Now, what is the focus area? We have to build ethics among the people, because the people run the institutions and the country's governance, country's performance in all the areas, all the arenas become better when the people bring their ethics and run the institutions ethically. So, when I talk about ethics paper, I teach ethics separately and I teach that in very detail, but here as this is a part of essay, so I am just bringing what? Certain ethical inputs. Why there should be ethics in people? Why there should be ethics in people? Why the ethics are required in the people? And what are hints given by certain philosophers? What are hints given by certain philosophers? Now, let us see hints given by certain philosophers. Socrates' concept of ethics. Okay, we talk about Socrates, Western philosopher, Greek philosopher. Now, Socrates, how to build ethics in the people. So, he was focusing on method of inquiry. Means people should be curious enough. People should be able to self-examine themselves, where they are going right or where they are going wrong. If they are going wrong, they should be having the power of self-examination to correct them, and hence build on or strengthen the ethical part. So, that means we have to plant something in our system, in our education, in our way of lifelong learning, where the people are forced to self-examine, forced to rethink and improve. Now, what is Socrates saying? There should be method of inquiry among people. That should be built in people, method of inquiry. There should be method of inquiry which should be built in people. and this can involves asking a series of probing questions. Questions to oneself. Question to oneself. Usually people are in denial mode. They think what they are doing, what they are saying is actually right. They do not want to listen. They do not want to change their way. They are not accepting. Their ego is coming into in place. But here Socrates is saying there should be a system of self-inquiry. There should be method of self-examination. And self-examination, acceptance of mistakes, acceptance of fault, or willingness to self-correct is a part of the build-up process of values. And that has to be built up right from the school days. Okay, so that means this method involves asking a series of probing questions to stimulate critical thinking and to eliminate ideas. Question everything. So Socrates was saying question everything and question yourself also. When we question, we find the answers. When we find the answers, we improve. He was saying that I know nothing. This is a very, very important saying by him. Means it is basically talking about shedding your ego or killing your ego altogether. Whatever people say, I know everything, do not tell me. I know everything, do not tell me. Yes, they think that they know everything. But Socrates is saying, despite your knowledge, how much you know, always willing to learn more by making a thing very clear to your mind. I know that I know nothing. That means I want to learn more. I want to know more. And when somebody wants to know more, means dimension of thinking increases, course correction increases, self-examination increases, values become better. So I know that I know the thing, which highlights the importance of recognizing one's own ignorance. Ethical focus. So Socrates was primarily concerned with ethics and human behavior. He believed that the most important knowledge is self-knowledge and that unexamined life is not worth living. So what is the thing that person is focusing on? That there should be a system of self-examination, because unexamined life is useless, is worthless. And this has to be imparted to the people. They should be willing to accept their mistakes. They should be willing to improve. They should be able to self-examine. And this is part of their learning process. This is part of what? Ethical build-up. Now see, when such type of person who is having the desire for course correction, self-examination, are going to run the institutions like political parties, the bureaucracy, the police, the judiciary, there will be a huge impact on the functioning of such institutions. They will become more ethical in nature. Further, he was saying no one does wrong willingly, because wrongdoing is a result of ignorance. So we should regularly be improving. Galti ho jati hai. But what is the most important thing is acceptance of mistakes and willingness to improve. Now let's talk about the Plato's concept. Yes. Plato was saying that we should be pursuing good life. And what is the meaning of good life? Which is based on virtue, means morality, which is based on ethics, which requires cultivation of morality and ethics and alignment of the soul with the ultimate truth. Now key virtues, Plato identifies 4 virtues. Means there should be generation of wisdom among people. So wisdom means identification of right and wrong. Courage means to take action for the right and to say no to the wrong. Courage. So standing with the right actions, right thought, right belief, and saying no to the wrong actions, wrong thoughts, wrong beliefs, and also willing to provide punishments. Wisdom. Temperance is self-control. And justice. Temperance is self-control and justice. Temperance is self-control and justice. So, wisdom, the knowledge is what truly is good, should be cultivated among people. Now, if the person of wisdom, if the person of courage, if the person of self control, temperance and justice, now when they are going to head different institutions in the country, definitely the institutions, their performance will become more ethical, more wisdom based. So, that is why we are saying all the governance institutions, if they are performing wrong, they are performing wrong because the people who are heading them or being part of them are themselves not having ethical maturity. So, we have to make people more ethical first. Aristotle concepts of ethics, eudaimonia means happiness. We have to create more happiness in life, and happiness comes again from morality, high morality or virtue. Now, if the people have got morality, when they respect each other, when they display the good sense of behavior towards each other, when they stand with the right thing, when they stand with the wisdom, when they stand with the courage to promote only right things, actually what they are promoting, they are preventing injustices, they are preventing discriminations, they are preventing separation of the people, they are preventing all those things which are inhuman in nature. And hence, when all these things are being prevented, then definitely what is being cultivated? Eudaimonia, that is happiness. So, moral virtues, these are the virtues related to character and behavior, such as courage, temperance, justice. They are developed through habitation and practice. So, what I was talking about? I was talking about how to prepare the society. I was talking about preparation of society on the basis of behavior development and behavior modification. The same type of thing is being taught here by Aristotle, that moral virtues can be developed. They are developed through habituations, means developing habits, and through practice. So, certainty of fines and punishments is also a way of developing habits through practice. Certainty of praise methods is through again habituation and practice. Sporting culture again habituation and practice, and IAC ecosystem again habituation and practice. Intellectual virtues, these are the virtues related to mind and knowledge, wisdom and understanding. Again, when we talk about a Chinese, Confucius, again the same thing. Ethics on the basis of benevolence and humanness. Now, even when we see from the religion perspective, all the true religions, I am not talking about the misinterpretation of religion for the political gains by various people in power across the world. When we talk about the true meaning of the religion, all the religions preach something which is based on morality and ethics. For example, when we talk about Hinduism, it is Vasudev Kutumbakam, that is, world is a family. Then world is one family, then why? Then there should not be any discrimination on the basis of what, maybe Dalit or Adivasi or a backward or a women or maybe a Muslim or a Christian. There should not be, when world is a family. Means all should be treated equally. That is, pure religion always focuses on what? Certain ethical values. That means the people who create hatred in the name of religion, that means they are giving bad name to the religion or their religion. So, true meaning of religion is providing ethics and morality. So, that means by preaching the people the true meaning of the religion, ethical insight in the people can be developed. I talk about Buddhism, Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths again talking about suffering, causes of suffering, and finally coming out from suffering through a more refined path. Again talking about things very logically. Is suffering not due to your fate, bhagya or pishla janam, agla janam? All these are useless talks. Whenever there is a suffering, we have to find out the true reason, that is rationality. And once we find a true reason, the true causes, then we work on improving the conditions. So, first truth is suffering, dukh. Second truth is origin of suffering, the reason. Third truth is cessation of sufferings. One can be free from suffering and attain nirvana. For this, one is to be free from desire. desire for wrongdoing, and fourth truth is finding the path to end the suffering, means designing the methods practically. So, for example, if poverty is the result of social injustice or economic injustice, when we first of all we have to acknowledge poverty is the result of these factors, not due to fate, not due to what the previous birth or the karma. Okay? We have to find the root causes, and when to find the root causes, we have to come out with a solution, or we have to craft a solution. So, here, so it is based on reason and rationality, and the reason and rationality to deal with all the problems come from eightfold path in Buddhism. To deal with any problem, created by your own selfish desires, to deal with any other related problems, the best way is utilizing eightfold path to deal the things in a very rational manner. And this eightfold method is talking about right understanding. Right understanding will become better when you concentrate well. Right concentration will give rise to right understanding. Right concentration will give rise to right mindfulness. When your mind is in right place, when your mind has what wisdom, it will give rise to right thought, right effort, right speech, right livelihood, and right actions. That means all these eight noble fold path should be there in the education system, in the lifelong learning, so as to create more ethics within the people. Now when we talk about Christianity, Christianity is again focusing on what? Love your neighbor or love thy neighbor as yourself. And neighbor can be anyone, can be of different religion, can be a different community, can be different social background, economic background. When you love your neighbor like yourself, that means you should be non-discriminatory. So, means pure religion usually teaches non-discrimination, cooperation, okay, and all these things can be imparted by focusing on the purer meaning of the religion to the people who has to build up their ethics. Similar message coming from Islam. When we talk about Islam, Adl means focus on justice. Rahm means showing compassion or mercy to the poor, to the deprived, and helping them. Sabr, having patience, means temperance, perseverance, constantly focusing on the work rather than the outcome. Okay, showing temperance means self-control. Sabr. Haya means modesty or humility, means being more modest, not showing arrogance. Now, when we see all those, what the Aristotle was saying, Plato was saying, or Socrates was saying, or Confucius was saying, or the purer version of religions are saying, they are talking about building the ethical inputs. So, throughout the human history, various thinkers, philosophers have focused on how to build ethics among the people. Religions, the true meaning of purpose of religion was to hold on to the ethics, or build up the ethics. So, hence, we come to know that the most important thing is to build ethics in the people, and there are two ways, one through practice and one through education, formal education and through practice. So, let us see how to develop the ethics among people, because ethics is the key thing which they can carry forward after their formal completion of education in the working arena or in the various institutions, private or professional, which can be provided more ethical ethical functioning by the people bringing ethics with them. Okay, so now you all know, okay, that three formulas. First formula for preparing society, second and third is governance. Governance institutions which prepare the society are driven by people. And who should be getting the first inputs of ethics? The people themselves. And the people get the ethical inputs by building values in a society. And values can be built through what? Behavior development and behavior modification. So let's talk about how to build behavior among the people. The methods now. So first of all, let's start with the formal education system. So now we are moving towards the second method for preparation of society, in which first segment is values and second part is justice. Now first of all, we are focusing on the values part, and the content we are going to generate here will be helpful in what writing philosophical essays and what ethics related answers in the GS papers. GS paper, that is GS paper 4. So education. Now let's see some of the topics which were asked by UPSC linked with education. We have seen this. Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. So there should be a thing of what we should be carrying forward. There should be certain carry forward. What should be carried forward? Wisdom. For generating wisdom through education, the education and delivery system should be widened beyond just instructions, beyond just examination, so as to include other methods like imparting values, more multidisciplinary focus, activity based learning, and promoting thinking original, independent and critical. Now next topic is education without values. As useful as it is, seems rather to make a man more clever devil. Seems rather to make a man more clever devil. Now education without values, the topic is saying if the education is being imparted just on the basis of rote learning, examination, just passing the examination, pursuing a career, that means we are not able to impart values. And this type of education without values as useful for some people because they attain high flying careers, they earn decent money, but is a way of creating a man more clever devil. Now for example, let's see an example. If a person is lesser educated or illiterate or semi-literate or lesser educated, what is the maximum financial crime that person can commit? Maybe snatch a chain, maybe rob your purse, okay, or maybe pull out an ATM machine, kidnap a child, okay, or maybe do a smaller fraud. But this is the reach of the person who is lesser educated. But when we hear about thousands of crores of rupees of financial crimes, when we talk about huge scams, when we talk about looting of the banks and creating NPAs and quitting the country by running off economic offenders, all those are what? Highly educated devils, okay, or means educated devils with no values. So lesser educated person, they are in the least position to create 50,000 crore rupees of scams. These type of scams are usually created by highly educated people who know how to play with rules, regulation and the laws of the country, and then they escape. So education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make a man more clever devil. So first type of education is, what type of education should be promoted? And education should be building on the wisdom. Education without values means education with values. Education which should be promoting independent thinking, should be encouraged right from the childhood. A type of education system which should be promoting independent thinking right from the childhood. And in our country, independent thinking is never encouraged right from the childhood. Right from the childhood, parents force and decide which school to go, which subjects to take in future, which coachings you have to go, which career you have to pursue, which type of jobs you have to do, then finally when to marry, when to have children. Everything is guided by the external forces and factors. not on the basis of independent thinking. That is why Indians are not able to get Nobel Prizes in pure sciences. The last time that an Indian won a Nobel Prize in science by working in India was C.V. Raman, almost 100 years back. Not a single Nobel Prize by an Indian working in India. Two, three Indians have got Nobel Prizes once, but when they migrated outside the country, not while living and working in India. So this clearly shows that independent thinking is not being encouraged in our society. We have to promote independent thinking, so as to create thinkers, innovators, initiators, okay, challengers to the status quo in all the streams, all these sectors and subsectors of the country, for the faster development of the country. For the life is a long journey between human being and being humane. Life is a long journey between human being and being humane. We all are born as human beings. Human beings are just one of the species on this planet Earth, and that species is termed as Homo sapiens. So we are, but there is a huge distance to be covered from just being born as human beings to a person showing humanistic values. And humanistic values can be displayed by the person who has got more reason, rationality and wisdom. So converting a human being into a person reflecting humanistic values is a very long journey of education, re-education, self-examination, okay, self-assessment and improvement. It's a long journey. So the type of education that is being expected to impart values should be based on what? Generating wisdom, should be based on values, should be based on thinking, should be utilized and planted in a manner of lifelong journey, so as to convert a human being into a person reflecting humanistic values. Now, so what is an education? What according to you is an education? What according to the people is an education? Yes, many people have got very limited and narrow understanding of education. First of all, education is not just being literate. It's not just being literate. Education is not just having a certificate, diploma, degree or multiple degrees. It is actually having more conceptual clarity when your concepts and understanding about various dimensions, various things concerning humanity are very, very clear. Holistic awareness, able to critically think, power of analysis, scientific temper, rationality, and should generate values and wisdom. So education is not just literacy, education is not just having about multiple degrees, diplomas. Education is basically something very different, which is very, very broad, which is supposed to generate rationality, scientific temper, ability to think and generate wisdom and generate wisdom. And generate wisdom. Now, for example, can we equate this? You must have seen ants. Yes, let's see from someone from the animal world. Let's see ants. Now we have seen army of ants walking behind each other, going and searching for the food and coming back. So literates can be equated with this. Yes, they have got very limited dimension of understanding. Most of the people are like ants, going and searching for the food, returning back and doing the same thing on daily basis. They are not having the ability to think broader. Now let's talk about the people having degrees, multiple degrees. They can be equated with squirrels sitting on trees. Okay, the height of the squirrel or tree can be signified by the type of degree, but still the vision of that squirrel is confined and limited to the height of the tree only. But when we talk about highly educated people, who have got wisdom, who have got rationality, who have got scientific temper, broader understanding of the concepts, they can be equated with a bird called Amul falcon. You must have heard about a bird called Amul falcon, the bird which flies for the longest distance across the world, from the Russian Siberia, crossing even India, and sometimes going to Africa also. So that means the person who educated this, as they soar, as they move, as they go to wider areas, their understanding improves. So they have got a larger vision. But anyone can be elevated from the end stage to squirrel stage, from squirrel to the Amur falcon stage. That requires a system of constant learning and self correction. That is called education. Now, why is this not happening? Because there is something flawed in the perspective of education in the society. Let's draw a triangle. Something is flawed. Now go back to your school days. When the report card was in your hand, everyone asked the same question: what is your percentage? What are marks in certain subjects? Are you a rank holder in the class? There too much focus on what your performance in the examination, percentages, marks, ranks, or grades, nothing else. Now, so here the common perspective of society for education. It's very narrow, it's very unidirectional. First, it's first focus on percentages, marks, grades, and ranks in exams. This is the start of this unidirectional journey. Higher the percentage can be equated to higher learning by the people. Average the percentage, average learning. Lower the percentage, an unconcerned child, bachcha mast hai. That's the way we interpret. Now, this is start a unidirectional journey. Let's talk about the next. Next target is, on the basis of these percentage marks, can be a better college. Now, better college, the desire is not for studying. Yes, the desire is not for what getting more information, knowledge. Better college can be equated with a more value in degree, and that value in degree can be help in what? Maybe getting a placement. So better college is better because on the basis of value of degree, and this value degree can help in reaching the final destination, that means a better job. So this becomes a unidirectional race in which only few succeed and rest are lost in between. So we are losing our huge human resource in this just blind race for few spots of success as visualized by the society. So this becomes a unidirectional race where the huge pressure right from the school days on percentages, marks and grades, maybe pressure just to enter a huge good college, pressure to get a job, and in this pressure many people wilt. Their other skills and qualities are not being recognized, they are not being understood, not being promoted, and only few people succeed because only few people have the capabilities to go through such type of rigorous, merit based, examination based processes that we have created, and hence wasting our huge human resource which may be having wider intellect and different skills. We are neglecting them. And this has turned the entire education system topsy-turvy. So this creates disbalance in the way of teaching. How this can be understood? As there too much focus on certain subjects, certain courses for us to get a job in future. This ultimately creates a disbalance in the way the things are being taught in schools and colleges. Let's draw a graph. This is positive, this is negative. During the school days, students are usually forced towards science by telling them, opt for science, your future will be bright. But only future will tell whether future will become bright or not. As per the reports by FICCI, SHM, NESCOM, more than 80% engineers are not employable. More than 90% MBAs are not employable. but still the students are forced into that stream by telling them the future will be bright. So here this right from the childhood, unnecessary focus is being given on what? Science seen by the society from the positive frame of mind, future will be bright, but many times the future is dark, not bright. Commerce, management courses, but in reality, reports by FICCI, ASSOCHAM, NASSCOM, question the quality, question the quality of these graduates by saying them more than 80 or 90% of them are not employable. That means the future is not turning out to be bright. And on the other side, as there too much focus on these areas, other things are neglected. The things which are neglected are humanities, or the subjects of humanities. Most of the people are not opting for humanities. I am not talking about Delhi University. I am talking about a country of 900 universities in which many people are not willing to take up humanities courses, or the people who end up with humanities courses, they are being seen as good for nothing. We all realize the importance of humanities when we start preparing for UPSC. Then the focus comes back to humanities. Now, humanities teaching should be very, very important, because here the word itself is humanities, and it is very, very important to make the human being into person displaying humanistic values. So, until unless the people read humanities, the human aspect will be very, very low. But this is now in the negative side. Sports, again, not sincerely promoted in schools and colleges, seen as a waste of time. Music or musical activities, seen as a waste of time. Art and craft, again seen as a waste of time, not sincerely. SUPW, many students even do not know how to expand this abbreviation. SUPW is socially useful productive work. कुछ तो किया था स्कूल में, something was done in this. Many times these periods, school periods, were converted into extra classes for maths and science, or just for wasting time. So that means what we are clearly seeing, that the things, so-called things to provide high employability, there is a question mark. The things which are supposed to provide values, these are not being giving attention, so the people are low on values. People are low on values. So that is why we are creating what? Educated devils or not so educated devils. But one thing is clear, many people are reflecting devilish approaches, not humanistic approaches, because of the wrong focus and the perspective of education. So what is actually the purpose of education? So what is actually the purpose of education? The purpose of education is to build two types of skills. First of all, create a solid foundation of values or social skills, and on that build up the productive skills, so as to generate a quality human resource. So quality human resource is a person who will have both productive skills and social values. So what is the purpose of education? To build two skills. First, social skills, values as base for nurturing productive skills. Now a person who is having social values, who is having productive skills, becomes a quality human resource. This is the expectation from an education system. So as to generate what? Quality human resource. To generate quality human resource. But as this is not the focus area, and the entire delivery system is unidirectional, as the entire delivery system is creating high imbalance, or we are not able to generate neither the productive values nor the social values, so we are creating huge problem. And what is the problem that we are creating for ourselves? This was asked by UPSC in the ethics paper. Let's see the question, let's read the question which was asked by UPSC in the ethics paper. it states that our attitudes towards life, work, other people and society are generally shaped unconsciously by the family and social surroundings in which we grow up. So, our attitudes towards life, work, other people and society are generally shaped by the social surroundings in which we grow up. This is very correct. Yes, हमारे attitude, the way of thinking, the way we behave, the way we function are shaped by the surroundings in which we are growing up, the family, the friends, the school systems, or maybe the people whom we know, the acquaintances. But the next part is some of these unconsciously acquired attitudes and values are often undesirable in the citizens of a modern democratic and egalitarian society. But some of these values which are being nurtured through our surroundings may not be correct, because they may be filled with biases, discrimination and hatred towards certain sets of people, certain communities of people. Because many times the family system preach which are the right set of people, wrong set of people on their basis of own notions of prejudices, and which is being imparted to the people, to the youngsters, and they carry forward. So, our initial attitudes, which may be undemocratic, which may be non-egalitarian, are usually shaped by the surroundings in which we grow up, which are mostly incorrect, because that is mostly based on assumptions. So, last part is discuss such undesirable values present in today's educated Indians. Such undesirable values present in today's educated Indians. Now, UPSC here is not questioning the people who are illiterate. UPSC is not questioning the people who are semi-literate or lesser educated. Here questioning the educated Indians, undesirable values shown by the educated Indians. Now, what are the undesirable values shown by the educated Indians despite having degrees and diplomas, or maybe doing highly skilled jobs, earning decent money? What type of discrimination they show? The common discrimination shown by the people are discrimination on the basis of caste. Okay. Despite being educated, many people still discriminate on the basis of caste. Despite being educated, many people can discriminate on the basis of class. Okay, the rich, elite, upper middle class, lower middle class, poor class. And if the person is coming from the upper class, then how the people behave with them? They feel with respect, dignity and closeness with them. And if they are dealing with the people who are lower in the economic class, they use derogatory terms, they abuse them. This shows the classist attitude. Now, all these are reflected by educated people. Discrimination on the basis of color or race. Color. Even within the country also, there has been discrimination by some North Indian against the South Indian because on the basis of color. Discrimination against people from the Northeast on the basis of their race or ethnicity. And this has been again done by the people who are so-called educated. Discrimination on the basis of gender, not only against females, third gender also. So, means discrimination despite being educated. Discrimination on the basis of religion, and this is increased to multiple folds in last 10-12 years because of the deliberate politicization of hatred on the basis of religion. And there have been WhatsApp messaging to again demonize a particular minority section again and again on daily basis. Discrimination in the name of region, language, culture. Now, what are the common? Now, let's see the question again. Question was, our attitudes towards life, work and other people, life, work and other people and society are generally shaped unconsciously by the family and social surroundings in which we grow up. Very clear. Some of these are undesirable in the citizens of a modern democratic and egalitarian society. So, discuss such undesirable values in whom? Educated Indians. Actually, this is not questioning the educated people, this is questioning the education system. Now, logic here is, if the educated people are displaying all these discriminations, are not able to eliminate all these discrimination despite being educated, means there is a flaw in the education system, and that requires reform, that requires a new way of delivery. So, some of these unconsciously acquired attitudes and values are often undesirable in the students. So, commonly visible discrimination done by the educated people are based on caste, wrong, class, wrong, it's a wrong discrimination, color. See, color is very simple, the color of the person is dependent upon the climate of the place, is as simple as possible. Okay. Gender discrimination is wrong, religion discrimination is wrong. So, now if the people discriminate on all these, are these discrimination beneficial or harmful? Question is, do they help in the progress of humanity? Definitely not. So, discrimination on the basis of all of these are very harmful for the progress of the humanity. So, how to discard? How to discard this? By nurturing values, and these values can be coming from right behavior development and right behavior modification. Right behavior development and right behavior modification. Now, so we came to know that education is not just literacy, education is not just multiple degrees, education is something very wider, which is going to generate wisdom, rationality and right concepts. Now, which is going to create a holistic personality and quality human resource having both social skills and productive skills. Not being generated, why? Because it's a unidirectional way of or perspective of education, just running after certain degrees or maybe certain jobs. That has given what imbalance to the way of teaching, or the education system has been highly disbalanced. Hence, we are creating educated Indians who discriminate still on the basis of what? Caste, to religion, all these type of factors. So, now if all these things are problematic, what is the solution? Solution are what? Right education, right values. So, hence right education, right values. What should be the meaning of education now, or what is the meaning of education now? Let us see three important quotes from three important thinkers. What should be the meaning of education and how the education should be imparted. So, what type of education? Quotes on education. Let us see the first quote by Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore states that the highest form of education is that which does not merely give us information, but makes our life in harmony, the word to be noted, with all existence, creating harmony with all existence. So, education does not mean just was mugging up certain facts or information and just writing in the examination, forgetting, pursuing a degree and finally just entering a job. That is not education. Education is what we carry forward after the completion of instructions. Education which should be guiding us throughout our careers, throughout our life, which should be carried forward. And in what manner it should be carried forward? The type of education which creates harmony with all existence. Now, harmony with all existence. So, what is existence for us? What is existence for us? Existence for us is our fellow human beings, flora, the plant kingdom, fauna, the animal kingdom and the environment that we live in. These are basically the existence around us. In short, when you see from the global perspective, in short, existence for us is planet Earth. So, the highest education is that which creates harmony with all the existence, harmony with fellow human beings for peace and stability, conservation of fauna, flora and environment, that means creating a sustainable environment to live and survive, and yes, making our planet healthy. Now, when we see this definition from the perspective of global initiatives for fighting what climate change or global warming, for example, right from the Rio Earth Summit or maybe Kyoto protocols, COPs, what we are now trying to do? We are trying to create harmony with all the existence. And now this gives purpose to the definition given by what? Rabindranath Tagore. And this should be imparted right to the education system. The second definition is coming from Albert Einstein. The value of education is not the learning of many facts, but a training of mind to think. We have to get thinking minds. And thinking is of three types: independent, original, and critical thinking. Independent thinking, original thinking, and critical thinking. We have to create thinking minds, and these minds help in what? Development of the communities, the society, and the nation at large by using their intellect. By using their intellect. And now, by Nelson Mandela, what is the meaning of education? Education is the most powerful tool which you can use to change the world. Education what form? Where the world can be changed by the education. Means if the things of the past are wrong, things of the correct are wrong, they should be corrected by more education, by forcing people to think and question regularly and work for improvement. So when we combine all these definition, there comes a one final line, what should be the type of education that we require. In short, education should promote ability to think first, create harmony second, and to be utilized as a tool for bringing change third. So what type of education that we should be imparting to the people, which should be generating values and wisdom to be utilized for the entire life and contributing, making society and country better, the world better, is in which there is ability to think, create harmony, and can be utilized for bringing regular, positive, progressive changes. This is the meaning of education. Now, how to deliver that? How to deliver that education? We will be opening up in tomorrow's class by saying, first of all, what is the policy of education in our country, national education policy, and to achieve this as per the definition of education, how to apply that policy so as to reap out the benefits. So tomorrow, henceforth, we will be working on what? How to plant a better education system, for which you will be getting enormous ideas, notes, and the content. And later, once we complete the initial phase of content, then we will be doing what? How to use that content in the nature of topics or the topics asked by UPSC with a proper introduction, main body, and conclusion. So please do revise, please go through the content again, please go through the handout again, and come back to the class tomorrow. Thank you.